Hey everyone, I want to spend a few minutes telling you about some improvements we've made to automated feedback on Exercism. This isn't going to be super technical, but it's going to be a little bit more technical than some of the vlogs that you see out there. So strap in. If you've used Exercism for a while, especially some of the bigger tracks like JavaScript or Python or Elixir, you might have come across automated feedback. Automated feedback is when you solve an exercise and you immediately get a comment that comes in that might tell you you've done great and this is the perfect solution. Or it might tell you something you could tweak a little bit, or it might even tell you something that you've done wrong or that you've not quite used the actual concept that the learning exercise was trying to get you to learn, or all sorts of things. And automated feedback comes in two different parts, two different ways that we do that. The first is through what we call analyzers. Analyzers read your source code and look for things. They look for the different approaches you've been taking. They compare, they consider have you used this method or this function, and from that they determine what the most useful next comment to give you is that will help you push your solution along. So take the most basic example, which is TUFA. TUFA, really simple exercise, 5 lines of code in Ruby, 3 of them that actually do anything useful. But there's a couple of pivot points in there as to how you solve that exercise. The first is whether you have a default parameter or not. Does your name variable, and I'll put some code inside, does your name variable set its default to the word you? If it does, then the rest of the exercise normally happens trivially, very, very easy. If it doesn't, then that normally means that later on you have to either do a premature return or you have to use a conditional, or there's various other things. So we can just analyze that code and we can say, okay, does this or does this not set name to be you by default? And if it does, then fine, that's good. We'll go and look for the next thing. But if it doesn't, we can just stop there and we can say, maybe you should consider this. What could you set the name variable to that will make the rest of this exercise a bit easier? And so that's what an analyzer does. It takes step by step looking for these different things and trying to work out things that you could improve. It might also do some linting. It might check to see whether you're indenting things correctly, or are your variable names structured in the way that this language prefers. And we look at ASTs for that, abstract syntax trees. Our analyzers are standalone tools. They take the code, they take the full exercise, they pull out the ASTs, they generate them, and they start walking through those. The other side of this coin is what we call representers. And the purpose of representers is to create a standardized, normalized representation of the code a student submits. So if 2 students submit code that's pretty similar, we can create a normalized version and basically say these are effectively the same thing. And the advantage of that is that the feedback that one mentor has given over here can then be applied to both of these solutions. So you don't have to wait for a mentor to give the same feedback that they've already given someone else. And a mentor should never, theoretically, have to give the same feedback twice. They should be able to give it once, and then we can just reuse that feedback and apply it into different places. And again, we use these abstract syntax trees to do that. We look at the abstract syntax trees and we start making normalizations. We say, okay, all of the variables, actually we can just use placeholders instead of the actual variable names. And the same for methods or function names. And actually having, and say in Ruby, you can put if something, then end. You can also say, do this if something. We can normalize those two things. They're effectively the same. It doesn't really matter if you do if something end or if you do something if. They're same thing. So by normalizing in this way, we're able to massively improve the amount of feedback we can give, the speed that we can give, and reduce the monotony and work for mentors that don't have to do the same thing twice. We've had both of these in the background bubbling away for a long time. Analyzers have been in production for a couple of years now. They're always getting better. Representers have been working away, but we haven't really been using the feedback from those and giving them to students. Last 2 weeks, that's changed. So now you'll start to see representer comments being used. If you're a super mentor, which means you've mentored lots of people and kept a really high mentor rating, you can now go in and start actually giving feedback on representations. So we'll give you a student submission that's been seen lots of times and say, hey, if you give feedback on this, we can give this to 10,000 students, and it's going to be pushed out every day to more students. So you'll see a table you can work through. You can choose your favourite exercises, dig out your mental notes and start pasting things around. If you're a student, you should be getting more feedback. It should be better feedback, and it should be coming at you quicker. There's lots more improvements we're going to be making to this. I've been coding some of that stuff up earlier for how we update the whole system when maintainers improve the representers or change the exercises. We're just going to be rolling out new features on this over the coming weeks and months. But I'd love to get your feedback. If you are finding the feedback that we're giving useful or not, please tell us. If there's things you think we could be improving, please tell us that as well. So hopefully that's been a nice little overview of how automated feedback works at Exercism and what we're doing with it. If you've got any questions, don't forget to check out the new forum as well. We'd love to talk to you there. I'm there. I'd love to chat to you, and we can explore all of this stuff together. Thanks for watching.